with Lady D today. I'm your host, Lady D. Join us every Thursday at 4 p.m. for another breakthrough conversation. Be a guest on our show, 216-571-2235. Well, welcome to What's Going On with Lady D today. And I have a special guest for you in the house, no other than Mr. Charles Chambers, the founder of Trippin'. So exciting. And he is better known as the Fat Cat.
That'd be me.
So welcome, Charles. How you
Hello.
doing today?
I am well.
Awesome.
Yes.
So I want you to tell our listeners, give them the tea on you.
Oh.
Just a little something about you.
Absolutely.
Where you're from and everything. Yes.
Absolutely. First, I want to thank you for having me on your show. This is awesome. I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you for helping me with my mission. And my name is Charles Chambers, like Lady D says, and I have the Fat Cat in huge letters spread across the side of my Gladiator Jeep, right? And so I'm a brand developer. I design information for package up branding and information for companies. I do some of the clients that you may recognize. I do the branding for GCUF Film Festival, Greater Cleveland Urban Film Festival. A lot of politicians around here that you've seen, I've done their branding for the last couple of years. Chantel Brown, Griffin, Councilman Griffin, et cetera, several more. Also, I have this Trippin' company, and what that is, it's about like-minded, providing a place for like-minded people that are into adventure, traveling, and basically pushing the envelope on being their best selves.
Awesome. So now, are you a Cleveland native?
Absolutely. Born and raised here.
Okay. And may I ask what part of town?
Sure. So I grew up on 40th and Scoville. I grew up in the projects. I used to frequent, we called it PORC back in the day, but I think now they call it PLC. It's also called Lonnie Burden Center, whatever, but that was my spot.
Okay.
So I lived like right around the corner from that. And I was in there all the time. That's actually how I started. That's when I started camping. I'm not sure what age, but they offered this summer camping thing. And I just thought that was awesome. Going to that, it just blew my mind getting out there. Because in the projects, there's majority concrete, and then you have a few trees planted around, which never made sense to me. And going camping, it was just a whole different world in so many different ways. But that's when I started. That's where my passion started.
So that's when it was born.
Mm-hmm.
See, you just never know. Getting the exposure at such a young age can introduce you to a wonderful way of exploring life and finding your gifts.
Absolutely.
And your talents. So now I want to ask you what inspired you to start Trippin', and how did you come up with the concept of blending adventures with a mindfulness?
Got you. This all started, well, first it was a personal thing for me. When I started this, I had no idea it would be this thing where I would be going on trips with the public. But this really began, it was around the time of the pandemic. Um, it was I was drinking a lot, and when I say a lot, that's I was drinking a ton, and
Okay.
it's drinking, smoking, if you know what I mean,
Right. Right.
all of it,
Uh-huh.
and I was I was in bad shape. Like I could literally feel death leaving me, my body
Okay.
just deteriorating. I had chronic migraines. My balance was off. I could barely walk downstairs. Couldn't drive at night. Like me not drinking wasn't really a choice of me saying, "Hey, I think I'm gonna stop drinking." It was more like it came down to a choice of whether I wanted to choose to live or not. And I tried doing it on my own. What really changed this was when I asked for help. I tried it my way a gazillion different ways. And so, in asking for help, that's when things started to happen for me. And before I knew it, I was in treatment and I spent a good amount of time there just that first year, hospital visits with doctors. I wasn't even going to doctors. So, in my before all this, I didn't. It was always I was working. I work at home from
Okay.
home, and so basically I was just drinking, smoking, and working. That was it. I worked from home. I didn't really socialize with anyone, so I had basically built this barricade where I was comfortable in my own thing, doing my own thing. Rarely interact with people directly, and so once I got sober, it became a thing of me asking myself, well, now that I'm sober, how you gonna live? You know, and I wanted to live, so it was
Yes.
like, okay, we gonna do this thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I started looking back on the things that I hadn't been doing, and I started putting that towards the forefront. And now I flipped the script. Now there's Charles comes first in terms of taking care of my health, my family, and it's this tripping thing came about as this was my way of leaning into who Charles was. It was like so I was after I got sober, I figured this way, basically putting myself in different environments. Embracing my fears is what it's about.
Okay.
So stuff like taking this solo trip, meeting people, engaging with them, where before otherwise I wouldn't. You know, going to new places, traveling outside, being outside. You know, it's a thing that I've done in the past, but now I do it with vigor. It's about embracing change, is what it is. So put together this trip the first time 3 years ago to leave Cleveland in January, and I loosely figured out a few destinations, and the idea was I'd stay gone till June. You
Okay.
know, I could still remember that first time because I was telling all my friends I'm getting ready to do this thing, and it's like, yeah, Charles, whatever. And the first time I did, I had my Jeep loaded up. Oh, so that's the other thing. I always wanted a Jeep, so I purchased a Jeep, etc., for this trip. So
You
I had,
didn't just purchase a
uh,
Jeep. You
right.
got to tell our listeners what type of Jeep you had.
Oh, absolutely. So that one, I'm gonna come back to that
Okay.
because this one, that's actually my second Jeep.
Oh, okay.
The first one is interesting because it actually burned out. Right. Um, but so there I am sitting in with my Jeep fully loaded, and my first time getting ready to take off on this trip. Now hadn't been to the places that I picked out. This was all just Google mapped and the concept in my head, and that's what the tripping is really all about. It's about just if I had to think about it and plan it all out and cover all of the things involved, I probably wouldn't have done it. So it was about me going out on the limb, just stepping out there and doing the doggone thing. And so I've been embracing it, leaning into it like that ever since. And what that does for me, in doing that, it's put me in some real sketchy situations where things look bleak, like being out in the middle of the forest where it's super dark and it's just me out there. Um, it's there's other things, zip lining, putting myself in these challenging situations. What it's done for me is it's taught me how to trust that, in spite of all of what looks dark and bleak, that things are going to be okay.
There is a light.
Right.
There
And
is a
that
light.
whatever that I'm going through, it's going to be okay. And so I practice that daily, every second. That's what I was going through when I chose to quit drinking. I didn't know what the other side would look like, because I've drank all of my adult life. Like, I had no idea. I didn't even think people did not drink. I thought that was just what we
That
do.
was just part of life.
Right,
That's
right.
the
I
normal
have a
thing to do.
family that drank, and right, and we celebrated. When I celebrate. I was a happy drunk, and I loved the taste of alcohol.
Yeah.
That was my thing, and so not drinking, I just had no clue what that would look like. How am I going to have fun without that? How am I going to do anything? Because back then, before I did any and everything, I had my stuff.
Right.
Right. And so just stepping into that, leaning into it, embracing it, and then so that's when I started to learn. You know what? It was okay once I went a few days, and so each day I got stronger. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. And like I said, sort of going onto this adventure, meeting new people and putting myself in situations, it taught me that it's going to be okay. I had a real test. I was halfway through my trip on that 6-month journey in my Jeep, and I was down in Houston, Texas, and my Jeep caught fire.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, this was my baby. I put a lot of resource into it. It was a 2007 Wrangler that I basically rebuilt. I had a brand new engine in it, new rubber all the way around, had a lift kit on it. It was a bad boy. It was looking good. I get a ton of compliments, and it wasn't just a pretty face. I did a lot of off-roading in this Jeep, and so I learned. Me and a Jeep had traveled a gazillion miles, and it was a trust thing. Anyway, I had the Jeep right where I really wanted to have the Jeep, all the way around, from the seats to the tires, etc. And it caught fire. I actually filmed it with my cell phone, and real time, me filming it. That's me accepting the situation. Like, here's this thing that's been my thing for that I put a ton of time and resources in, and then there it was. So it became, again, that was a big test of acceptance right then and there.
Okay. Yeah. So that was a challenge for you, but you made it through.
Absolutely.
All
right.
right. So now you're spreading the tripping and embracing our community with exploring, camping and getting out there. And and it's a good thing, because sometimes I get out on the highway and the car is going and I got my music and I'm like, it's time for a road trip.
Okay.
I need to go somewhere. Let's just keep going. And just right here in Ohio, there are so many different places that you can go, and it doesn't cost any money. Just get a little gas. You don't have to eat out, pack a lunch, and enjoy the day. So now I'm going to ask you, Kenwood, since you've already shared some of your personal experience, how does, let me ask you, what kind of tools for wellness do you use introducing during the trips? And how do they benefit your clients when they go?
That's a good question. So those are actually two questions. For what I do, well, first I'll talk about, I think you're asking me about the trip that's coming up on
Yes.
the 18th of October. Right. So what I've done is assembled an awesome group of professionals.
Okay.
Uh, and Nia, she's our wellness professional, and what she's done is prepared this awesome menu of, and not just the menu, but her focus and put on this trip is all about maintaining the wellness and every opportunity that with the food and um, with the food that we're eating, and also she's conscious about of the environment, the place, the for example, the water bottles that we're using, they'll be glass with a wooden cork on it.
Okay.
Like I was just going to get regular water bottles, and she's like, "No, we can't do it." So it's that type of consideration that she's putting into this trip. Then also I have a therapist on board, Stephanie McCain,
Okay.
and she'll be leading the mindfulness of the trip. So throughout, from beginning to end, she'll be guiding us through these mindfulness meditations and other activities and sessions that we'll have. The trip is designed for 20 people,
Okay.
and we've capped it at 20 people to keep it a nice intimate size for our staff to manage that whole trip from beginning to end. That safety's number one,
Right.
and that's with Jefferson Jones leading us that way. And then we have a staff member of Joe. He has a couple of decades with the Metro Park. He's going to
Okay.
be pointing out. He's going to be pointing out certain plants along the trip. We'll also have navigation exercises where you'll get the basics of camping, like fire building, navigating, plant identifying different plant life, and we so from wellness to mindfulness, and then the basic fundamentals about camping, that and making a trip over this mountain. So we're in the Allegheny Mountains. That's about a 4-hour drive from here, right in the middle of Pennsylvania, the
Okay.
northwest part of it. And it's a gorgeous setting. So this will be around October 18th. And around that time, leaves will be changing. And if you can picture just this colorful
Yeah.
bouquet of just flowers, and climbing this mountain where we're at, Ministers Creek, there's this overlook.
Okay.
And let me say, at each step of the way, there'll be an activity attached to what we're doing that's directly set for to bring about this transformative, to become this, to use this weekend as a transformative thing. Whatever it is that's in front of you, or that you with your personal growth that you're trying to develop, this is the time to get in with something like this. It'll be this thing that you'll go through with a group of people, with experts guiding you through. A lot of this information you could get the details at our September 21st event at the
Okay.
Bar on
Okay.
Larchmere. So there you'll meet the guides, and we'll go into detail, and we'll show you where the location and exactly what we'll be doing for each day. And we'll pretty much walk through that whole weekend. And it'll be a Q&A where all your questions that you have we'll cover there. And then there's also to just come hang out with like-minded people that are into that kind of thing.
Right.
I believe that there's a lot of us out here that wants to connect with nature. And it's just, we're so far few in between. And that's really what the trip and brand is about. It's about shining that light for those people that are, I think we're out here. And here's an environment that I'm building where we can all get together and do our thing.
That's great because now you are creating a very safe space, very intimate, And it's almost like you're being able to have a one-on-one,
Yes.
and that's awesome.
Right. And even more so than one on one, as a group, we'll be helping each other go through this process. And that's a factor that it's like to the second power of going. There's something about a small group going through a challenge that you just can't that you can't duplicate that process. One, the trip to the Allegheny is important because it gives us that space of separation away from the city and really away from everything. The technology won't work out there. There's no signal
Okay.
once we get out there at all. So it's a true separation from technology. And that's an important step in this whole process towards this transformation. So there you'll be at your undivided attention will be there in the moment of that space. Also, there's a whole immersion into nature. You won't be able to see car streets or anything other than nature. And we'll be camping out right there on the creek. It's a gorgeous place, and it's a deep immersion into this environment. And being there, I could tell you, you won't want to leave. The food's going to be good. The people that are there is going to be awesome. And I believe that I'm certain when we come back, the people will be. It's hard to express in words after going through something like that.
Well, they'll be ready to go for another
Yes.
trip in an adventure, and they'll be sharing it with their friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's you're making an impact, and that's good because I don't know anyone else here in the city that is doing anything like this. Now, I want you to tell our listeners exactly where the name of the trip, how they can get more information, and how much is the trip cost, and how many days are you guys going to be gone?
Okay. Yes. So, first of all, if you go to the website Set Trippin, that's SCT. Then there's a dash. Don't forget the dash. Set Trippin without a G. TIPPIN.com. Settrippin.com. That's really all you need to know. Go there, and there you'll find under the events tab, there's 3 different events. We're going to have a gathering. The first one's on September 21st at Larchmere. And that's basically to talk about the trip. And then you can meet the staff, etc. And then there's a second event, and that's the actual camping trip, the trip in peace.
Okay.
And then there's a third one for October 26th, and that's for the participants to share their experience with the public if they like, and just really for us to socialize. Again, it's about putting together these environments where like-minded folks can come together. Also, let me say that this is the first one of what we're preparing for 2025. That we're going to have a range of events over the calendar year 2025, from 1-day trips to 3 or 4-day trips, depending on what the adventure is. And so this one happens to be a 3-day, 2-night trip.
Okay.
And there we'll provide the shelter and the and all of the food.
Excellent. And so the Umbar is located up at 126 or 12710. I believe that's the address. And it's a great place because that's where we all hang out at. And
Yes.
that's where I got the opportunity to meet Charles at. And it's just a wonderful spot. Everybody comes there, and it's like we always say, everybody knows your name when you come to the Umbar. Because you meet family, you meet friends, and you get a chance to share and find common bonds there.
Absolutely.
You know, and there's so many different activities there. So, and it's
It,
for everyone.
yes, it's a different kind of space. I
Yes.
think you'll know what we mean when you get there. It's yeah, most people that come there want to come back.
Yeah.
It's that kind of
Yes,
thing.
yes, you
right?
come and you just can't leave. Because the first time I was there, I came for something that started at 1 o'clock. I didn't get out of that place till 10 o'clock because it was just on and on and on. And then I find out that I work, me and the owner, we worked together at the same place at one time, and he's still there. And then I met his wife, and she says, "Oh, Lady D, you can't leave because I got somebody else coming in." And so it was just one of those things. So I wanted to ask you, tell me, what is your long-term goal for Trippin', and how do you hope to continue to inspire and grow in transformation with your clients?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. I I think I think the Trippin' will take on a life of its own. Outside of filling the mission of facilitating, making sure that it's a sound organization with experienced folks there. So to answer your question, I'm not sure. I'm not clear where it's going to go.
Okay.
But I just know I'll be involved. Really, this is stuff that I would want to do.
Awesome.
Yes.
So you're going to be going around the world. You're going to be tripping.
Yes.
So you might as well get Charles a call.
Yes.
How can they reach you again? Give our listeners that information.
SET-TRIPPIN.com. And then there's, this is my personal website, thefatcat.app. Or really just Google The Fat Cat, no space, THEPHATCAT. That actually helps me out when you Google it and click on my information, because it teaches the search engines that, hey, this is an interesting place. So Google The Fat Cat, as it is on the shirt. There it'll lead you to not only my website, but that website will take you to the SET-Trippin website. And or you could follow me on Facebook, and there's a lot of video on Instagram, thefatcat_life. And you'll see that also if you Google The Fat Cat. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. 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 So now that's what's going on today. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Mr. Charles, for coming on and letting everybody know about how to trip. Because we're going to be tripping with the Fat Cat.
Yes.
And that date is what?
September 21st at Larchmere Unbar,
And what time?
5:45.
So be there or be square.
Yes.
Thanks for watching. Join us every Thursday, and you too can be a guest straight from KAZ Radio Podcast Studio.
Because she's like, oh, this is the good stuff. She spends most of her time inside her office with her practice. And so it's not a harsh